Perfect. Well, thank you so much first, Kimberly, really for bringing us together and for such an important, significant cause that all of us feel so deeply rooted in our veins and in our being, no matter if man or female here right now, but mostly, of course, the women as women here on this call and all around the world, what we stand for. Thank you so much for the incredible and inspiring speakers that are taking action upon their purpose. And Klana, thank you too so much for describing your journey and what you're doing, and the energy that is emanating from you is incredible. And so I can so see the stellar rising star in you and all those that you will inspire with you on this journey, because it does really matter to take leadership and to take these steps forward and to show the possibility of what some people say is impossible, but there are ways we can push the boundaries, and this is why we're here. Kimberly and I, as Kimberly mentioned, we met over 4 years ago at the World Economic Forum, actually at a space event with the space industry. So of course, this is how we met. I'll just briefly give you a little overview about myself, my personal background, and then I'll lead over to Leaders on Purpose and why I'm here today, and why we believe, and as all of us do, but from the Leaders on Purpose perspective, this is a significant time for women to come together to build equitable industries of our future, because it really does matter if we take action and learn and go into STEM to be then actually able to operate and to work and to define what these industries will be that we will have upon us. I was born in St. Petersburg. I'm half Russian, half Armenian, but I grew up in Germany, and my family is deeply scientifically based. Actually, my great uncle was a famous astrophysicist, and my whole family is very scientific. And so I studied pure mathematics. I decided to study pure mathematics to really understand better the systems around me, because already as a very young child, I was not really able to understand why do I see so much injustice in general and flaws of a system, even though I was living in Germany. And so little did I know when I went to a University of Technology that we will be 1% of women in the whole mathematics department and 7% at the whole university. So this was a great awakening coming from also big cities into a small little town of a leading technology university in Germany, in Europe, and in the world. And really, to be honest, it was really a fight through on my personal level and on the level there at that time. At that time, I was in Germany, and it probably will come to some as a surprise, but there are certain studies in the world from the Women Political Forum that always show how forward-thinking developed countries are and how diverse they actually are in STEM. And so Germany is on the second, or was at that time, at the second least diverse countries. I think the worst was Japan at that time. I do know that it's already got much better, and I do have a lot of hope for that. So I studied a very, very, theoretical studies of STEM, but very driven with a very deep understanding that it will enable me to understand our economic systems, our industry systems, and a systemic view upon which then I could build my career further out to create and to partake in leading and having a role of designing for the future. And mathematics is universal language, as you know, so it's not trivial to pin it down into a certain industry. And right after, my personal journey was that I realized that I'm a strategist, and I would love to work across several industries from a strategic perspective, but with a STEM. And so I have a Ph.D. in corporate strategy. I worked across as a corporate strategy consultant for several years across multinational corporate strategy processes in the world, across several industries. I was very lucky, based on my background, that the CEO of the consultancy became immediately my mentor. So I was in the aviation industry and the financial industry and industrial tech, industrial goods industry, consumer goods, but technology and innovation and space, these were really the industries that drove me, that I found the most fascination in. And in that time, again, I was also one of the very, very few women in the boardroom for very young, and for many years, almost the only woman taking the flights that early mornings as a typical strategy consultant. However, I felt because I was so sparked by my energy and I was so sparked by what I'm doing, I never felt really personally that, because I'm driven. I have a driven energy that is not competitive, but that believes that we are all one team. We can achieve great things. And I was also a semi-professional volleyball player. So this way of being is very close to me and to my heart. But sometimes I would just be, people would try to put me into a box, and would be like, oh, you're very masculine, and you have these kind of traits and these kind of traits. And at some point I was speaking with this famous professor from London School of Economics that did research and on women. It's very, again, early stage about equity and women in the early stage for Europe, at least, and to think about a more equitable society, looking also at the developed countries. And she would also start putting me into boxes. And so I would say, look, isn't at the end of the day, does it really matter, or doesn't it matter that I'm Tatiana and I have characteristics of a Tatiana? This is my identity. And some maybe what you think is female, some maybe what you think is masculine, but I'm actually driven by my purpose, by my motivation, by the things that I want to be doing, and I want to be doing it in a great way with great people. And I do believe we have so much that we can do together. Would this not rather be the conversation we should have, instead of the conversation of putting us into boxes and identifying which box is most fashionable right now, etc. So I think this belief drove me all my life, and very fast I came into the opportunities to become potentially on like a high-speed tracks of talent development, etc., for a multinational role, or for smaller companies to support in the turnaround based on my background. For at the time was also all about digital strategy, digital transformation. And industrial goods and mobility, the transition of the whole mobility sectors and the energy transition. But then I got a call, and I will never forget this moment, because this is really when my purpose clicked exactly into the pathway. Is when a friend called me and shared with me that they were just starting with a global leaders on purpose CEO study, and this was in, I don't know anymore, actually 2016 or 2017. And so I met my incredible co-founder and CEO, Krista Jory, with who I have been now ever since on this journey of building leaders on purpose. And it was all about identifying multinational CEOs, and that based on certain metrics that we would believe are purpose-driven leaders leading truly at the forefront of a new business logic, meaning very strategically and structurally embarking upon, with some boldness, on a shift to use business truly as a force for good. And so here for me was, of course, the opportunity not just to be a leader myself in one organization, but actually supporting a huge movement into identifying who are these people, what are these organizations doing, what can we embark upon, and what can we learn as fast as possible. And in this whole journey, and I have prepared a couple of slides just to show you. Let's see if we'll get there. But what is really, really important is that we really focus on purpose as the systemic value proposition and the systemic value creation. And systemic means in a way that goes beyond the transition, beyond the products for the traditional customer, or beyond sustainable products based on certain ESG factors, and that PR-based might be well marketed, but looking really as a whole, as a holistic view on our world, into our economic systems, the systems that we touch, our ability to have impact, and starting structurally really to work and develop the new technologies, build the innovations, build the industries, and become actually industry leaders through having a very holistic point of view and coming together on a higher ground of where we want to go. There are a lot of challenges that we have to go through and that we have to work on. And this is something that all of us are very, very aware in one way or the other. And all of us are feeling it and are seeing it in our own families, communities, organizations, and all around the world. But at the same time, what does purpose also mean? It means to be very intentional. And so two things that are very important in our context here today is that on the one hand, we are looking at transition industries, but then we're looking at frontier industries like space. And space is this example of a huge frontier industry of which we know it will be fundamental to our future. No matter what we're going right now through the transition with with climate and all the things that we need to solve for some solutions, we don't have yet all the solutions available that can deliver us at scale, but we do know there are industries that will build fundamentally what our future and the next generation will look like. The next thing that we know, there's so much youth coming up all around the world, in Saudi, in India, in Africa. We have a rise of youth coming, rise of women coming. And so the opportunity now for the talent, for the girls, for the women to go in and to learn the techniques and the skills and develop through their purpose what they believe the industries of our future should look like. Now is the time, because you will be able to shape them, and they're upon us and they will happen. If you look today at our tech industries, as you know, we've seen the statistics, and of course they're getting better, right? But they cannot get better fast enough. So it is a movement, and the Steminist conversation is a movement, and it is a momentum. This needs to spark more and more and more. So for us, from Leaders on Purpose, it's not just working with the global leaders, but it's actually going through across the whole value chain and supply chain of the ability to connect incredible grassroots organizations with multinationals or with governments for policy recommendations, and finding these sweet spots where we can leverage and drive change even faster, with a very, very clear outcome in mind. And the outcome in mind being that we're very intentional about the tech-based frontier industries that we are right now creating. And I think it's why is it? I think most of us know how tangible it can be. However, most of us sometimes maybe don't see how fast things can change. But if we look at the evolution over the last 10, 20 years, even the last 2-3 years with the pandemic, how fast things can change mathematically. And as we know, things can also so fast change for the better, right? It doesn't only go down, the volatility also goes up. And so like to keeping this positive in our mind and realizing that literally it is in our hands to go, to study, to learn, to inspire others around us to do the same. And through then our ways and through our sharing and through coming together and enabling through scholarships or these programs like the Entrepreneurship or the Stellar Rising program, really for girls and women to take a role and take a voice in what is being created, will have a significant effect. And in fact, it is also our responsibility now, because what we believe is we are writing history. And what we're doing today will really, really matter for the next generations. Yes, so this is our view from Leaders on Purpose. What is it? What we're doing today? We are focusing now after 5 years, being part of global private sector engagement strategies. We started out as a private sector engagement strategy with the World Bank. This is how our Global CEO Summit, for instance, came into being. That is going this year into the sixth iteration. We are building really capacity to educate and smaller organizations, big organizations, and to support governments that are also going on women empowerment, for instance, and certain pillars in the society to drive up the scalability of purpose-driven businesses, so we can really unlock innovation, unlock talent, go into the schools even and design the school programs and work with the ministries of education for that's really understanding where the leverage points and what are the programs that we can put in place with the right partners that would fit into these nodes. We have a very incredible community of global leaders. It's more and more women there. We are looking for the women leaders every time. As you can imagine, multinational CEOs are mostly men, but it is getting better and better and better. And so what we do as well, very intentionally, we focus on the regional champions around the world that we also interview and research that are women, and that have a very certain leadership style that we also see right now actually in all across the board of purpose-driven multinational companies, no matter if men or women, no matter how the teams are, as the new pillars of how leadership is being fostered and drives the resiliency, productivity, and the innovativeness of multinational organizations to sustain themselves in this time. And we believe this is also the only way that they will be investable and insurable, because they are actually finding the pathways that need to be navigated and are doing the doing. But for them, for these organizations that are on the transition, and I think, Lana, you've mentioned also the energy sector, the oil sector, these organizations need women and people right now that have the purpose to support and to transition, because otherwise who should do this work if not people that right now, youth and women going in, learning with a new perspective, with a new purpose, and then coming in and working on these incredibly important programs and projects, and with a more human connection, because no one really knows yet where we will end up, right? But everyone can come together to do their best, and this is obviously something that we should strive to be towards to. And last but not least, and this is something that's very exciting that we're also doing with Kimberly together. So with all our knowledge and all the years of experience that we have built, we're entering a next stage as Leaders on Purpose, where we are building coalitions globally for high impact and high scale. Essentially, really to understand, again, where are the leverage points that we can unlock? How do we identify the right partners with the right projects to that think further and are bold enough to take steps beyond the usual and to show the world what is possible. It's needless to say that's a lot of women leaders involved in that, and which is incredibly beautiful, and is also really across the board a observation that we're doing, that really, even though they might be in some very in some positions where we all need to create a very safe space, but really how women right now are showing up to go beyond the usual and with the boldness to try things out that have never been tried before, and to fight for that within the organization is just incredible. And so one of those coalitions is Space on Purpose. What does Space on Purpose stand for? Yes. And so Kimberly and us, and Kimberly is our partner and director on this initiative. It started in its early phases during the Leaders on Purpose CEO summits over the past couple of years to bring the space conversation into the future of purpose-driven leadership, not only as a inspiration, but also as one of these frontier industries that really want to be developed on purpose and intentionally. And so Kimberly has been always working with us and curating these stakeholders from the very get-go beginning. I think we started in 2019 with the first sessions around it, and now, right, Kim?
This has been a pandemic baby for us, and it's been such an incredible opportunity to collaborate with both Tatiana, Chris, and all the other partners and leaders supporting Leaders on Purpose. So Space on Purpose, we cannot recreate certain things that we have developed here on Earth now as we become multiplanetary. And the alignment with sustainable development, the alignment with space for Earth is imperative. And so, Tatiana, back to you. But yes, we're super excited.
Yes.
This is we're going on our fourth year rolling this out.
Going into the fourth year, but now we're going in a big rollout. And the reason why it's right now from our side, the time from Leaders on Purpose, and here just some slides that I don't think I need to explain anymore further, but is this particular letter here. So during the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, we went to our ecosystem of multinational CEOs and executive directors of the UN and other executive directors. It was the time when everyone would speak about investing and to build back. But we were like, wait, we cannot build back. We need to build better. All this capital, all these commitments that are being right now designed and talked about, etc. It cannot be that we use this to build back, right? So where can we unleash it, and how can we put the guideline and guide rails into place and get consensus around this? We're actually building what we call the purpose-first economy. What does the purpose-first economy mean? It means a private sector that develops a systemic value proposition solutions for public problems and public opportunities, not anymore only just for market-based problems or market-based opportunities, because our world is growing together. And in the sectors, the public sector and the private sector, the lines are getting very, very blurry, as they should. And so how do we understand this movement, and how can we, from a policy perspective of governments, put the policies into place that can accelerate and scale this development for multinationals, but also for entrepreneurs, cooperatives, communities, like across the board. As you know, a multinational cannot just become a B Corp, like a certified organization that is only focusing on sustainability overnight. It's a long-term journey. So how do we identify these long-term journeys, and how can we enable those that are taking bold action to actually accelerate that action? And so we launched this letter. We worked on this over half a year with over 40 multinational CEOs and their teams. Only 20 were allowed to sign based on their investors. This launched in the Financial Times New Agenda all over the world, in print and online. And this was huge for us. And the letter for the Purpose First Economy, we have 25 countries working on this today. So there's an initiative called Africa on Purpose that was born out of this, that goes into 7 countries and it's looking how to operationalize these concepts. In Latin America, a lot of this is right now being worked on. And with Space on Purpose, the coalition, what we are looking at is to build a formation that is basically driving the consensus about what we believe, or what this consensus of the stakeholder group, and it's in its early seed, and it will grow from this early seed. The idea is that it will be an institutionalized platform that can truly drive what the space industry and a purpose first economy can look like, how to make it investable, what are the policy guide rails that we need to put in place today, and then what are the conversations and the things we need to do at the same time whilst this is coming together, so that we don't lose track of anything that right now is developing in path dependency. So we are very excited about this. We will launch it furthermore at the Global CEO Summit in New York in September. And also there's a big initiative, Youth on Purpose, on our end that is coming up and welling up. So we still are a very small team. So we are scaling ourselves right now up to really embark upon these coalitions even deeper, but it's a very exciting time, we believe. And it's a really time where we will have very tangible impact upon what we are creating. And so we're inviting all the women and girls joining and in the way of finding the curiosity, find your purpose, go in, learn as much as you can in the most diverse way, and you will find your path. When you listen to your heart and you follow this, there is a path there that will unlock the opportunity to shape these industries in a tangible way.
Thank you so much, Tatiana.